Okay, we're holding on Mem Gimel Amid Beis. Mem Gimel Amid Beis. That's 43b. We're holding by Rav Nachman by Yitzchak Amar. I don't know how many lines it is from the bottom. Let's see. 6.
20.
Yeah, about
20.
20 lines. 20 lines from the bottom. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Amar. Okay. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. Specific learning, we should have the basic English. Okay. We had a discussion here. Someone that planted a vineyard. So he goes back from the battle, right? What was it? Someone that got married, someone that planted a vineyard, or someone that built a house. We're speaking about a vineyard. We mentioned that even if he grafted, he would also go back. Right? Even if he grafted a tree, that would make him go back from the battle. But when we had another source, Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov, that said no, he grafted, he doesn't go back. So we're trying to resolve that. So our first answer was, depends if it was prohibited grafting or permissible grafting. If it was prohibited grafting, then he doesn't go back. If it was permissible grafting, then he does go back. So we said, what's the case of permissible grafting? Right. If you grafted onto a young tree, so he had to go back because of his first young tree.
Growing.
That's growing. The first tree that was planted, not because of the graft, right? So we said maybe it's if it's grafted onto the older tree. It's an older tree, then it's bottled to the older tree. He doesn't go back at all.
Oh, okay.
So we gave some answers. One of them was that he grafted it onto a tree, but the first tree, a young tree, but the first tree was being planted as a hedge.
Oh.
So if that's the case, then there's no din arla. It wouldn't go back for that tree. It only goes back for the new tree. Then we said maybe it's a graft. It's a. You have another answer here? No. Then we said, how come we don't answer that it's partners? It's partners. The first one would go because two people own it. So it's one person owns one tree and someone else owns the graft. So the reason why he doesn't go back is because of the first tree, is because it's not his. So for that we answered that you don't go back when there's partners in a tree. Okay. Now Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar, Rav Nachman Yitzchak says, "B'mavrich ilim b'yarek." We're talking about mavrich. I think what it means is markiv. It says mavrich. It means markiv. Mavrich means that it's layering.
Layering.
But I think it was talking about grafting. It's talking about grafting a tree to a vegetable. You know, this was possible. Okay. I don't know, but when you're taking two trees, two plants, and you're doing something, that's usually grafting. Layering was only with one.
Right.
So here, what we're doing is we're grafting a tree onto a vegetable. Hi Tana Hu Tanya, and this Tana that says this is discusses this in the following brayso. Someone that grafts a tree onto a vegetable. Shimon ben Gamliel mater mishum Rabbi Yehuda ben Gamda ish kfar akul. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says that it's permissible.
First one layers a tree, grafts it with the vegetable plant. There's a tree, grafts it. I mean, he takes the vegetable and puts it onto the tree, or puts the tree onto the vegetable.
I don't know. It'd be weird to put the tree onto the vegetable.
Yeah, so
it must be that the vegetable is going onto the tree.
He puts tomato onto a maple tree. Olive tree.
Yeah. So now, the question is this permissible or not? So, well, Reb Shimon ben Elazar says that it is permissible. Chacham say that it's asur. Now, what do we gain by this? What do we gain by this answer? We had this answer before already. We said that it was prohibited if it's. We're getting an example of where it's permissible. Another example of where it's permissible, but he doesn't need to go back for the first tree because the first tree was a vegetable. Follow? First tree was a vegetable. So for the first tree, he doesn't need to go back. So it's only the second tree, it's only the grafting that he needs to go back for. So for the grafting, he would go back because it's permissible. Okay. Now notice that what we say now is Rav Dimi is saying something in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Rav Dimi was one of the travelers like Ula or Ravin. Rav Dimi was one of them, and he would bring things from the name of Rabbi Yochanan, coming from Eretz Yisrael. He would come to Babel. He answers this question. He says, Hamani Rabbelas ben Yaakov, what are you telling me that you have a contradiction? It's not a contradiction, it's machlokes. One says that grafting and layering, you do return from battle, and one says you don't return from battle. And when we mentioned Rabbelas ben Yaakov was the one that said that it needs to be specifically a vineyard and not other trees, and then it goes on and it says, and it doesn't apply to grafting. That was all a continuation of Rabbelas ben Yaakov's view. It goes on, he explains. Didn't he say that it needs to be literally a vineyard? It can't be other trees. Also, when it says planted, it needs to be literally planted, which means it can't be grafted. So that's all Rabbelas ben Yaakov. We have. This was the easiest way to resolve this contradiction is by saying it's machlokes. There's two ways of resolving a contradiction. Either you say that talking about different cases, or you say it's different opinions. Here we already have the other opinion already there, so it was obvious. Okay, we mentioned that Rav Dimi brings things in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Morning. So now we say another example of something that Rav Dimi brought, which is not really relevant to what we're talking about. We're talking about people returning from battle if they did grafting. It says, Yalda Pchusa Mitefach, a young tree that's under a tefach, chayeves ba'arla kol shenei. This is probably bonsai. You know, those little Japanese trees. So you can get a fruit tree to be under a tefach from the ground. So it's always going to be chayev in arla. That means you'll never be able to eat the fruits. You'll never be able to eat the fruits if it grows so small.
Is that because it can't be a hedge?
Well, the reason is the mischazi kavashat because it looks like it's always its first year. It's like a rabbinic decree on this. This would only be if you had a small area of trees, which was 5 trees in total, 2 opposite the other 2, plus 1 coming out as a tail. That would be considered the minimal size of a vineyard. Aval kula kerem. But if it was a large vineyard, then everyone knows that this is not really a first year tree. Everyone knows, oh, did you see that bonsai vineyard? This is
these are midget
plants. So
tefach is how big?
tefach is a hand's breadth like this. It's about 4 inches. Yeah.
Wow.
They have these trees. They have these plants that grow inside a house. Inside the house, they have this light that just lifts up on a pole. You got it higher and higher as the plant grows. You ever see this thing? Yeah. Apparently, you can grow a lot of food in it.
How do you do that?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of electricity. But yeah, they have these lamps, and it's also
used to be that's how you grew marijuana.
yeah, it's
Yes,
probably yeah, the guy told me he was using it for cucumbers and tomatoes, but I'm not sure. Okay.
You know,
Well-
this whole business of grafting, I think that they have to be, first of all, they have to be botanically similar. You
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
just graft anything. The second, I thought they had to be of a similar size or stage in development. Maybe the professor knows. I thought they had to be a similar stage in size and development. So it would imply they're all small. Is that right, Professor?
You mean with regard to this tefach business or midgets?
No, well, we weren't
General.
grafting onto the tefach. We were, that was another idea.
Wasn't it an oscar to graft two different species together?
Yeah, it's also if it's two different species. So what would happen here if it was a vegetable? So Rashi mentions that. Rashi says that this opinion holds, what does he say? This opinion holds that it was permissible to do a graft onto a vegetable.
Of a vegetable onto a vegetable, or
No, this is a tree onto a vegetable. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly the science of this. I thought you can't even really graft like an apple onto an orange. I thought you couldn't do those things either. But it really needed to be very
Are
similar.
you allowed to eat produce?
Yeah, you're allowed to eat the produce. Yeah, that's how we eat grapefruits. I think it was a pomelo and an orange or something. For doing what?
One grafts a tree with a vegetable plant, or a vegetable plant with a tree.
Oh, so there's another opinion that holds that it's prohibited. Yeah, once it's prohibited, then of course he doesn't go back from battle. Here we're talking about where he would go back from battle, right, like the marriages. Okay. Kiasar Rav Dimi, another statement from Rav Dimi. Kiasar Rav Dimi, Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Rabbi Yochanan says this in the name of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, but we still have Rav Dimi saying in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, who said it in the name of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. What does he say? He says, Meis teifes arba misl kriyashma. That we have a rule that we're not supposed to perform mitzvahs in front of a corpse because it's considered loig l'rash. T'ksiv loig l'rash cheref eseya. Loig l'rash is mocking the poor, making him ashamed. He's saying, ha 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 ha. You can't do mitzvahs, and we can't. That's why we talk at tzitzis when we go to the cemetery. You don't wear tefillin in the cemetery.
Because it says, whoever mocks the poor is Hillel Hashem, I suppose.
Right.
But when I think of mocking someone, I think of like speaking badly about someone else, not so much about
Behavior.
doing
Right.
a mitzvah.
Right. So here it turns out that doing a mitzvah in front of someone that can't, which is the corpse, so that's like mocking. Mocking without words.
Who brought that down? I know it's in Proverbs and all this, but who? I'd like to
We're
know
quoting
how they
this.
Jumped to that conclusion of doing a mitzvah.
Yeah. This is it's a Gemara in Brachas, but it's
Oh.
quoted here that within the 4 cubits of a corpse, you don't say Kriya Shema. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Okay, now it's Rabbi Yitzchak in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, in the name of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. You notice how we did that switch? It was before it was Rav Dimi in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Then it was again Rav Dimi in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Then it was Rav Dimi in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, in the name of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Then we dropped Rav Dimi and we inserted it's Rabbi Yitzchak in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, in the name of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. All right. Churgta Hagadela ben Achim. If there's a stepdaughter that grows up amongst the brothers, that means the wife has a daughter from a previous marriage. Now she's married to this man that has sons from a previous marriage. She cannot get married to those stepbrothers because it looks like it's the sister.
Wow.
The Gemara says that's not true. Everyone knows, and it's not a problem.
Right. Might like them.
Yeah, this would have messed up Reb Chia's marriage, right? No, Rab's father would have messed up Rab's father. Rab's father married. No, this wasn't even a stepsister. This, maybe here it's Hagedela Benachim. She grew up together with them, so there was an extra addition here. Growing up in the same house, that's different. But there, maybe she didn't grow up in the same house.
I think this was the situation of the Mission Barura.
You mentioned this, yeah. What was that? Who did he marry?
His stepfather's daughter. I think his stepfather's daughter.
That's interesting.
He didn't grow up with her.
Yeah, I get maybe he didn't grow up with her, or maybe he did, and we're following the V'loihi Kalas Lelamilsa, following the end of this Gemara. Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Yechim, Shem Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Rabbi Yitzchak says name of Rabbi Yechim, name of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Lekit Shekhu Pe'ash Hasan B'Geiran Hukva L'Maiser. This is a guy, a really good collector. This is a poor person that goes from field to field collecting Lekit Shekhu Pe'ah, all the things that drop and that are forgotten. He collects it, and then he ends up with so much stuff that it's like in a granary, and if it's in a granary, then he has to take meiser. Amarula says that would only be in a field. But in the city, everyone knows that this person didn't really grow this stuff, and he's exempt from meiser. He's really exempt from meiser anyway. This is just a decree. Why is he exempt from meiser? Because you only give to the Levi what the Levi doesn't have access to. Levi doesn't have a field, he doesn't have access to. But the Lekit Shekhu Pe'ah, the Levi does have access to, those things that drop. So you don't have to give the Levi from those things that he could have taken himself if he would be poor. Because the Levi does have access to, if a poor Levi is allowed to take the Lekit Shekhu, you only have to take meiser from things that he would not have access to at all. This we had before. We have a young tree that's under a tefach. Does not make the plants that are grown together with it as kalayim. And you can't plant grain in a vineyard. So if you have a young vine that's under a tefach, it does not prohibit the grain that's growing together with it. That's only if the young vines are 5 vines altogether, 2 opposite 2 and 1 coming out as the tail of a kula kerem. But if your entire vineyard is this bonsai vineyard, everything is that's going to consider to make the grains considered prohibited. Rabbi Yitzchak says the name of Rabbi Yechim and the name of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. This we also mentioned before. We weren't talking about Tumah, we were talking about Kriya Shema. So we say that a corpse grasps 4 amas regarding Tumah. It means that a person can't go within 4 amas of the corpse and say, well, I'm not going to touch it, I'm not going to go over it. You have to, if there's no fence there, you have to stay away 4 amas, or else it's considered that you're becoming tummy.
Wow.
The Tanatuna.
So he's carrying the coffin.
Oh, for carrying it, then you're tummy for carrying it.
Yeah.
Here we're talking about where you just go within 4 cubits of it. The Kohen would have to stay away 4 cubits. But if there's a wall there, you can go closer. But here we're talking about where there's no wall. Exposed. Yeah, exposed would be the. Oh, Rabbeinu Yonatan of Lunel. That's there was a city in Hebrew it's called the Yarchi, but in English it's called Lunel. I think it was somewhere in France, and they were around the time a little after the Rambam. Around the time they argued a lot with the Rambam. They argued and asked questions. There's a lot of correspondence. People from Lunel. Well, with Tanatuna, we have a Mishnah that discusses this. It says Chotzer HaKever. in the olden days, they would bury inside a cave. They would carve out like holes. What's it called? In the wall of the cave. They would crypt. They would put the bodies inside the holes in the cave. Now, in front of the cave, there was an area to get in. Sometimes they had to jump down into this, and then you would be able to walk into the entrance. So that area right in the front of the cave, that before you're in the cave, there was a little area that you would go into, and that would be called the Chotzer HaKever, the courtyard. Well, if you're standing there, you're tar. That's only if there's 4 amas there. That's the Bisham. Bisham says it's its own place. You're not in the cave. You're in the front of the cave. 4 amas, separate area. You're good. If that whole area was large enough to be 4 amas, it's considered an independent area, and the person that's there isn't tummy. Bisil is more lenient. They said, it doesn't need to be 4 amas. Even if the whole area is only 4 tvachim. 4 tvachim is double this, right? This is 2 tvachim. So it's going to be like the size of this Gemara or something. If you're standing in that area, that's also considered a separate area. Basil is very lenient about this. When do we say that you could be lenient like this? Basil says 4 tvachim is enough. That's only how do you get into that area? You have to jump from the top. You have to jump down. And how do you get out? You got to climb up. But if there was some sort of ramp or steps that took you into the entrance, right? You walk around the thing, and I think that works with these caves. So then, and everyone is stricter. Everyone says you need to be 4 amas. It needs to be 4 amas. The Gemara right away says, "Klape laya," which way are you facing? It means that, which basically means it should be really the opposite. You're facing backwards. Yeah. Klape towards laya. Where are you headed? Towards where? Towards where is this going? Adarab, on the contrary. Minatzad, if the entranceway is on the side, midrid v'nafeh, can slip away and exit and go. So malmaila yefshad leimal. But if you have to climb up, what happens when you climb up is you have to grab onto something, and your clothing spreads out, and everything spreads out. You're going to end up hovering over the entrance to the cave, which is a problem. So if you have to climb up, then the area should really be 4 amas. If you can walk out from the side, then it could be 4 tvachim, which is exactly the opposite of what Basil said. So the Gemara says, Ella, rather we have to adjust it. When do we say that 4 tvachim is enough, which is much smaller than 4 amas? That's only if the entranceway was from the side, there was a ramp to get into it. Aval pischam el. But if the entrance was from the top, that means you had to jump down and climb up, then it's going to be Abraham.
There's a picture of that. That's what we're talking about.
Oh, wow.
He steps down, there's a courtyard, and go in.
Yeah.
Nice house.
In the corner, there's a picture of a cave.
Nice.
It's a picture of a cave. Okay.
Nice.
They don't show you the stalactites.
Well,
They're just showing you an entrance. So
the corpse is covered. Or you have a body. They cover it with anything. It's not in a box, right? It's just in the.
I think it's just it was just in there. They would probably wrap it in a talus or something. They just put it in. It's like the way they bury in Israel. Just
right from the earth. The earth there in the air.
I think the flesh decomposes. I think they would bury bones somewhere else.
Oh, and use the spot.
I think they would. Yeah, I think they would. Everyone got buried like twice. First, they would get put into this cave, and then they would take the bones and bury it. Yeah. Exhume the bone. Exhume the bone. For the flesh to decompose. Really? Maybe.
That's for coffin or for.
Oh, maybe like this it goes faster.
Maybe it goes faster. Okay. We're holding Bani Mili. 1 second, I didn't finish this. Bani Mili Chatzek Hakever the Messiah Mechitzta. when do we say that you can do this? That you can 4 tefachim is enough. That's if there's a courtyard to a grave that it has walls. Aval meis ba'alma, but if it's just an open corpse, that's always going to be dalet tvachim tafis. That's going to grab for dalet amas. That's going to grab dalet amas. Yeah, if it's just an open corpse. Okay. Now we go to the discussion again about the speech that the Kayan would make. Someone that got recently married can return home. I'm sorry, who's a man that was recently married. He doesn't even he returns home, which means he does the supply line. Someone that was married already, not just Aris, not just betrothed, someone that was already married but didn't wait a year, he doesn't even go to battle. Tana Rabban was taught in the Brisa, Aris, that betrothed the woman. Brisa says, it doesn't matter if she was a virgin. It doesn't matter if she was a widow. It doesn't matter if she was married to the fellow's brother. Even if there's 5 brothers, and one brother dies in the battle, all the brothers go back because they now have a new potential wife, which is their sister-in-law, which someone has to do yibam. Loi lakach v'loi lakacha. The pasuk says he betrothed the woman, but he did not take her. And it says loi lakacha, he didn't take her. It doesn't say loi lakach, he didn't take.
Is the yibum deciding process for her to pick I guess brother-in-law?
Right.
To take one, like, okay, so they go back home. For example, for like how long? Years? No. I don't know.
Jonathan is asking an interesting question. How long could they be exempt from battle when one brother dies? How long is the Erison? How long is the Shemeres Yivam lasting? Someone betrothed a woman. How long does he have to, is he exempt?
Yes. 2 months.
I know once he's married, he has 1 year. Once he's married, he has 1 year that he's exempt, very exempt. He doesn't even go out to battle. But before he's married, so he's exempt. It doesn't tell me 1 year. Oh, it's usually a year. It's usually a year, but by the Shemeres Yavim, it doesn't tell me what it's usually.
But if she can't make up her mind, does it?
What? A woman that make up her mind?
She's got 5. He's got 10 brothers. She's got one of those. It's
Only
There's
choose one of them. No, well, midrabanan, there was something called mimer.
Okay, I mean, from what I understood, there was just Chalitza or
Yiva. Right.
So,
I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. Give him a trophy.
Yeah, I owe you one.
Prat. So it says it didn't take her. Prat la almana. This is coming to exclude almana l'kain gadol grusha v'chalitza l'kain hediat mamzer since l'shol bas shol mamzel nasan any of those prohibited marriages. He does not return from battle.
right.
Lamed like Rabbi Yisrael Glili. Must be that this Mishnah, this Brisa does not support Rabbi Yisrael Glili. Rabbi Yisrael Glili, because if it would be Rabbi Yisrael Glili, Amar, he says, Hayari v'rachalev zemesyar mever shabiyadei. You're going to learn in the Mishnah on the bottom that Rabbi Yisrael Glili says that when they in the speech that says anyone that's afraid of battle should return home. Why should someone be afraid of battle? Rabbi Yisrael Glili says maybe he did Averis. Well, here we have a guy that did Averis and he's not returning home. What was the Aver that he did? He's a Kayin Gadol that married a widow. He's a Kayin that married a divorcee. He's not returning. He's supposed to be home anyway because Rabbi Yisrael Glili says he doesn't belong there. He's afraid of his sins. And here we're saying that he doesn't return home. That's not considered a marriage. What about the sin part? He should be home. Must be it doesn't support Rabbi Yisrael Glili.
Suggest that if someone doesn't have like a serious match that they'll win, it's almost like a favor.
Oh, you mean the fear?
Yeah.
The fear. He doesn't have the tachan.
Yeah.
We'll take a look at that soon. Take a look at that shortly. Well, I feel it. Afilu tema Rabbi Yossi Haglili. You could say it is Rabbi Yossi Haglili. Kid Rabba, we're following the opinion of Rabba. Dam Rabba leila min hachayev ad sheyivel. Rabba says that a person's only chayev for these forbidden marriages only at the relation part. It's not at the wedding part. So the kohen marrying the divorcee, prohibition really takes place not at the wedding. Can't do the wedding, but where the real prohibition is when they have relations, because he wasn't allowed to be machala, wasn't allowed to make profane, which means either making the woman profane by having the relations with her, that would turn her into a halala, or having children, where she conceives, she has children, the children become halal. So the real prohibition is the actual relations. Yeah. I remember someone asked me, a kohen that wants to marry a divorcee, or wants to marry a girl that was not, they said, you know what, maybe what he would do is he just wouldn't get married. That way he wouldn't be violating the biblical prohibition. They would just like live together without a marriage. So I remember I had to look this up. The marriage wasn't even part of the prohibition. The whole prohibition is just the living together. It really goes the other way. That was not a way out. Yeah. Yeah, they could get married maybe, but they can never live together. It'd be go the other way. Okay, so
What about Rabbi? What about if Cohen was living with a Goya?
Nothing happens to the kohen. The only thing is they don't give him an aliyah until he divorces her and accepts never to do that again. But he doesn't become a non-kohen because of that. Yeah. So the Amar Rabba says, what's the reason that you shouldn't take mishum le'yichalal? Because of le'yichal, because you shouldn't profane. And that's mishum hachi ain't like shival. That's why they only get malchus when they have the relations. So from the kiddushin, from the betrothal, there was really no sin. So he doesn't have to return because of the betrothal. He would only have to return because he's married. We say that's not considered a marriage. It's not considered betrothal because it's a forbidden marriage. Okay. Someone that built, someone that planted, someone that betrothed. Limda Torah derech eretz. Torah is teaching us proper behavior. Shivna adam bias. First, the person needs to build a house. Beat a kerem, and he needs to start a business. He has to have a parnasa. He has to plant a vineyard. Then he could get married. Shouldn't do it the other way around. Shouldn't go to Kailal, go to yeshiva, get married, and then say, "What am I going to do for a living?" This is not a halacha shena. Yeah, times have changed. Apparently, we do it the other way today. So, but the Rambam writes it this way. Vav Shleima. It's interesting because the Rambam didn't actually do that. The Rambam was supported by his brother. He had a brother that was a businessman. David was his name, and it was only after his brother drowned, his ship drowned, that the Rambam had to get a job. He became a doctor. Yeah, he was very depressed. There's a letter that he wrote. How sad he was. Shlomo says in Mishnah. No, he was sad because of his brother. Yeah. Rav Shlomo said, prepare outside your work. I think it's how to pronounce this. And be ready with the field for you. Afterwards, and you'll build your house. What does it mean you should prepare outside your work? That means to have a house, have an apartment, a place to live. Yeah, should have a business. Zakerem, a field is talking about a vineyard. Then you can go get married. Another interpretation.
So the father-in-law gives the apartment to the happy couple.
That's the way they do it today.
Yeah, so that's the house part.
in the modern world, the girl wants to know, what are you going to do for a living? What do you have? Yeah.
Yes,
No. Yes. She has to already have a degree. Right.
let's say he doesn't have it.
PhD was Papa has dough. Right. Right.
So he doesn't need a parnasa if his papa has dough. That's the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So Hashem will provide, right? Davar acher, hachin b'chutz malachas mikra. Now we take this into Torah. Prepare outside your work. This is talking about knowing Chumash. And be ready with field for you. The Mishnah. Study Mishnah. And then you'll build your house. Only afterwards, only after you know the Chumash and the Mishnah, then you can learn Gemara.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, we switch that too nowadays. What's the first thing that you should do? Is know the Chumash and know the Mishnah. Then you have to know Gemara. Then you can start doing mitzvahs. Maybe getting married and having children, maybe. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Why would you say that? Maybe it's because the person doesn't know what's considered a mitzvah yet, until he studies properly. Maybe that's the shot.
Knowledge.
Rabbi Elazar ben Eishel Rabbi Yossi Aglili Aimer, Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Rabbi Yossi Aglili, says, "Hachin b'chutz malachtas and mikra mishnah gemara." Throws all three into one. That's the first thing you need to do. You need to know Chumash, Mishnayos, and Gemara. And then you have the field ready. That's your good deeds. Then afterwards, you go and build a house. Drush v'kabel schar. You teach and receive reward. Now, drush, I'm not sure what they're saying with the drush for kabel schar. Do they mean literally teach and receive reward? How do they translate that there? The last piece.
Expound upon new understanding of Torah.
Oh, expound upon new understanding. Okay. The following don't return from battle because their house that they built is not really considered a house, doesn't match the code. What was that? Habayna Beshar, someone that builds just a gatehouse, or someone that rebuilds his house, such as someone that rebuilds his house exactly as it was the first time. He took the wrong blueprints. Tana was taught in Raisim Haisim by Dimas Echad Chayser. If he adds one row of bricks or stones, then that's already considered a new house. That's already considered something new, a new room. Rabbi Eliezer says even someone that built a brick house in Sharon doesn't go back. We said that was not considered a good house. It was more like a tent. You had to redo that twice every 7 years. So that wasn't considered a house. That was just a motorhome or a, what do they call those homes? Portable, what do they call those? They have they have large areas. Is that what they call just mobile homes? They have these large areas of just these.
Trailer parks.
What is it called?
Trailer park.
Trailer parks.
Oh yeah.
Trailer.
Yes. Orlando.
Okay. These people are so exempt that they don't even go to battle at all. Someone that builds a house, and he has dedicated it. He is living there already, but not for a year. Someone that married a woman, but hasn't been married for a year yet. Someone that planted a vineyard and has already taken the fruits, but not for a year yet. It says a new wife. Ainly Elisha Chadash, I would think that the new wife would mean a virgin. Almana Grushminai, how do you know if she's a widow or a divorcee? That's the same, it's considered a new wife. It says a wife, doesn't have to be a virgin. So why do you say new? Misha Chadash, it has to be new to him. But if he's remarrying the same woman that he was married to before, then that's not going to be an exemption. This would be, he was trying.
Your old wife.
Yeah, this was a loophole to get out of going to battle. He would divorce her and marry her.
Wow, tricky.
Yeah, or maybe he was actually divorced and just decided to remarry her. Right, that's the second wife. She was good. He doesn't go out to battle. He doesn't go to battle, but maybe he still has to do the supply line and fix the roads. He's not. There's no nothing that's placed on him.
No obligation. at
No
all.
obligations. Maybe the person that was betrothed, the person that built a house that didn't dedicate it yet. So you see, there's two stages here. Maybe the person that was only betrothed that didn't even marry also doesn't have to do the supply line. You don't put any work on only the person that was already married, but not for a year.
Is there any discussion in here about circumventing the army if one does tourist study?
Well, it's not political, sure.
The only thing that we saw about that was we had before about Asa. It was Asa. He made a draft and he took the Torah sages. He said that was a problem. Why was Asa punished? Because he made a draft for the Torah sages that they had to go to the army. Yeah, that would be the source. Over here, in this context, it doesn't say, "Oh, you're in the middle of a masechta, you can go back home." It doesn't say that here. Once it says that you don't put anything on him, so why does it say he doesn't go to battle? He doesn't even have to do with the supply line. So it says Lavar B'Shnei Lavin, coming to tell me that there's two prohibitions there. Should not be the supply line. You should not be going to battle as well. Just going to provide.
Is there an age which one can you list? Like minimum age?
What age did they go to battle? I think it was from 20 to 40 was the battle. Maybe 20 to 60. What would be with the children? The children, we did have like some sort of system of the poor. There were soup kitchens. There were the grain that they could take from the fields, the corners of the field. It was set up already for the poor that they should be able to get things. Yeah. It's interesting that we had these things in place so long ago. Yeah. Right. When did we start these welfare things in America?
Suffrage societies.
In the 30s?
In the 30s, there was no social security.
So when did it start?
No, I mean, no. It could have been
Daughters of the American Revolution.
What happened with them? What happened with the Daughters of the American Revolution?
I'll say what happened in Orlando, Florida in 1990. They invited me to be their invocation speaker. I skipped.
It's 1990, not 1790. Oh, Daughters of the American Revolution Day. Why did they choose you?
The Mishnah says that the officers continued to speak to the people. Rabbi Akiva says, that speech said, anyone that's afraid could go home. What does it mean, afraid? Literally. He can't stand the battle. He sees a sword drawn, he faints. So such a person should not go there. Rabbi Yisrael says, no, that's not the pshat. Someone that's afraid or has a soft heart, that's just a euphemism for someone that committed sins. He has some crimes that he did. He's afraid he's going to die in battle because of his guilt. It's unbelievable. All those other people that are going back, people that got married and all of this, they're going back to cover up for the guy that's going back for his sins. They didn't want to embarrass him. So when you see someone turning around from the battlefield, they say, oh, he probably planted a vineyard. It wasn't because of some sin that no one knows about or whatever. It's a cover up. to cover the shame. Rabbi Yossi says it's not Rabbi Yossi Aglili, this is Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta. Almana lekayin gadol grush v'chalis lekayin hedem mamzer sinsin lishol bas shalom mams nasan rehu hayari v'rachaliva. Those people that have those marriages, those forbidden marriages, that's exactly those that are returning back. Now the Gemara is going to ask, what's the difference Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yossi Aglili? Both of them are talking about sins. Well, we'll see soon. When the officers finished speaking to the people of Bakta Sari, they put officers in front of the people of Shalom, and also they put people in the back. That's what the Mishnah continues. Ma'amidim zakifim. They put, how do they translate zakifim? Like some sort of strong people there. Lifneim in the front, and others they put behind them. Guards probably. The chashilin shel barzel biyadayim, and they have like some sort of spears in their hand. Anyone that tries to flee, or it's just biyad, they had permission. These people, the kapeach has to beat their legs. Get back in there. Shetchilas nisa nefila, because the beginning of fleeing is falling, is defeat. The Gemara is going to say, you mean the beginning of defeat is fleeing? Yeah, anyway, the Gemara is going to correct that. Shenemar, as it says, Nos Yisrael lifnei Pelishtim, the Jewish people fled from in front of the Pelishtim. This is the battle when they lost the Aron. Remember, they took the Aron out. Also, there was a big what is it called? Slaughter. And the people. So first they fled, and then they lost. They fled, and then there were many that were dead. When was everything that we're talking about? That there's a speech and all of this, and that people go back and they don't, and that's only that's only if it's a voluntary battle, mitzvah. But if it's a mitzvah battle, for example, the mitzvah to conquer the land of Israel, you even take the chassan out of his room, and the kala you take from the chuppah to go to battle. I don't know what the kala is going to do in battle. Maybe for the supply line. Huh?
Joan of Arc.
Who was that? Joan of Arc. Who is Joan of Arc?
French lady.
Oh, really? They should make the cholent, put it on the back of the horses so that it runs faster.
They burned her alive.
Joan of Arc.
Oh,
Because the church was very jealous. She talked to God directly. She go through the church.
Changed their mind. They wanted it.
She inspired her soldiers. That's why she won the battle. She was like a forum.
really? Amar Rabbi Yehuda b'Amedvar Mamur b'Mechamis Mitzvah. When do we say this? Rabbi Yehuda says something similar, but it's not exactly the same. He says, when do we say that that you have this speech that's by Mechamis Mitzvah? Mechamis Chayva, but it's obligatory. Turns out the Gemara is going to explain that they're not really arguing. They're just giving it a different name, and which is going to affect Isaac the mitzvah. We'll see in a moment. What's the difference between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yossi? Both of them said because of Aver. The difference is if it's a rabbinic law, and which means that according to Rabbi Yossi Aglili, even someone that violates a rabbinic law also should return. And according to Rabbi Yossi, which is Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta, only if it's a biblical law. According to whom does it go? What it says in the Brayso, someone talks while he's putting on his tefillin, in between the shel yad and the shel reish. It says, Averi biyadi, it's a sin. He has to return from battle. Now, that's obviously only a rabbinic law. So who returns from battle? That's command Rabbi Yossi Aglili. That must be Rabbi Yossi Aglili. If you're not Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi says it would need to be a biblical law. It's all discussion on this about saying the bracha, which is Sugi and Menachos. Who is the author of the following? Shama kol kranis v'ertia. If he heard the sound of the trumpets and he got frightened, agafas tris, and the banging of the shields, he got frightened. Tzich haravis, he hears this clashing of the swords. Mayim sheisim al birkav, he starts to urinate because in fright. So chayzer, he has to go back from battle. Come on, lema Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yossi. That's probably what Rabbi Akiva was referring to. The Gemara says no. No, such a person that can't control even that, just from that he everyone agrees that such a person goes back from battle. What we were talking about is someone that didn't have that level. Should he go back? That was only Rabbi Akiva's view. When the officers would finish speaking, it's not because the beginning of fleeing is defeat. It's the beginning of defeat is the fleeing. It should have said. When it says, okay, we'll adjust it. Beginning of defeat, Nisa is to flee. Now, when do we say that that's only if it's a permissible battle? When we called something a rishus, according to the first opinion, Zui mitzvah de Rabbi Yehuda, that's what Rabbi Yehuda called a mitzvah. Mitzvah de Rabbanan, when we call something a mitzvah, Zui chayva de Rabbi Yehuda. Basically, there's no machlekes here, there's just the difference in terms. Amar Rava says, Melchemes Yeshua lekavish, when Yeshua went out to conquer, Divrei kol chayva, that's all, everyone holds that's an obligatory battle. Melchemes David leRavacha, David went out just to get some more people, the more area for them to pay taxes and whatever. Just territorial, what is it called? Expansion. That's only, he went to Syria, it's called Ram Tzeva. Keep Ligi, where was the argument over here between the different opinions is if you're just going to reduce the enemies so that they don't come, just like that, make them less. Preventative battle. Markarle mitzvah, markarle rishus. One calls that a mitzvah, the other one calls it permissible. Nafkamina, what's the difference what you call it? If it's called a mitzvah, then you don't have to do other mitzvahs when you're involved in it. If it's only called a rishus, a voluntary, then you're obligated to do other mitzvahs. Good Shabbos, everyone. And on Sunday, as it's the same at 6 o'clock.
Hi, Jeff Gasser.
What is that? Oh, is Jeff there?
Good Shabbos.